this is Sean of Raw Select Music. Today I want to talk about this record right here. This is Little Barrie and Malcolm Catto, Quartermass 7, released on Madlib Invasion in 2020. I got really curious about this record for two reasons. One, the track that they put out before the album came out, After, was really intriguing. I love the mix of funky guitars, super silky bass line, and some of the most artistic and tasteful distortion and fuzz that I'd heard from a record like this in a long time. And two, I was just kind of curious to hear what kind of music Madlib would put out on his own label that wasn't his own music. So while browsing around on Amazon for records to pick up, I stumbled across this guy and it was reasonably inexpensive. So I figured, what the hell, I might as well pick it up and give it a listen. So after quite a few listens, I wanted to share my thoughts and opinions of this record with you and let you know whether or not I think it's worth checking out. So with that being said, let's talk about this guy. Before picking this record up, you might want to ask yourself a few questions. Are you a fan of psychedelic music? Are you a fan of funk music? Are you a fan of funky psychedelic music? If you meet any of those criteria, then odds are you're probably going to enjoy this record. And seeing as how I'm a fan of all those different elements, this record pretty much did everything that I hoped it would do. It's got plenty of fuzzy, distorted, and feedback-laden guitar. It's got plenty of slick bass grooves, and it's got plenty of powerful and fluid drumming from the likes of the unimitatable Malcolm Catto. And it's pretty much like that throughout the entire record. It does seem to teeter-totter back and forth between being a little bit more on the funk side and then teeter a little bit more back to the more rock, pop, and psychedelic side of things. And there are moments where it does seem like they sort of meet in the middle, but it definitely feels like there's this constant balancing act that's going on of pushing things more in the psychedelic territory and things more into the funky territory. The two tracks to me that really work on this record are the opener, Rest in Blue, which has this absolutely orgasmic climax of distorted guitar and, again, Malcolm Catto's fluid drumming as it all just builds up to this absolutely perfect payoff that cannot be described and just has to be listened to. And the aforementioned After track is a lengthy number, and it definitely takes a while before it gets set up, but once it finally does, the payoff of wall of sound guitars, the repetitive but so groovy bass line, and the increasingly complex drums from Malcolm Catto just makes it one of the most enjoyable tracks to listen to that I've heard in quite some time. It's just kind of a shame that the rest of the record isn't quite as good as these highlight tracks for me. Pretty much from You're Only You, Repeater, Trabs, and Steel Drum are all fine tracks, but I find that they lean a little bit more into the sort of straightforward rock territory for me, and I was hoping for a little bit stronger drums. But thankfully, the closer is this absolutely creepy, menacing track, and it definitely finishes the album on a highlight and features some of the most lacerating angular guitars that you'll hear on this record. I think a big reason for me that I'm not as big of a fan of this record as I'd like to be is, and it just rings true for a lot of albums, the vocals just really don't do anything for me. They're a little bit nasally, and while they fit with the music perfectly fine, I honestly feel like this record probably would have benefited more from just being a straight-up instrumental record. And with tracks like the best bits of Rest in Blue and After are definitely the instrumental moments, it really feels like the vocals don't really add that much to the overall quality of this album. But that being said, all the tracks that I said aren't quite as good as the two best moments on this really don't take away from what is overall a genuinely enjoyable listening experience. They're definitely not tracks that I want to skip, and I always end up listening to them. I just don't enjoy them as much as the rest of the record. So at the end of the day, that's just my opinion. I still think that everybody should give this record a listen, especially for the two epic moment tracks that I talked about in this video, and still recommend that if you haven't given Little Barrie and Malcolm Catto's Quartermass 7 album a listen, give this guy a chance. In the end, I'm still glad that I added it to my collection, and I'm definitely looking forward to listening to this record more and more down the line. Who knows, those tracks may end up growing on me in the future. And I think that's pretty much all I have to say about this record. So that's going to be it for me today, guys. Thanks as always for watching. If you've listened to this record for yourself, please let me know what you thought about it down in the comments. If you want to hear this record for yourself, please head over to my WordPress blog, because that's where I will post music links to any of the records that I talk about on this channel. And make sure you're here on Sundays, either from 1 p.m. Japan Standard Time or 8 p.m. Japan Standard Time, depending on when I can do it live from the record room. There you can hear me play records like the ones that I talk about in these videos, as well as a whole host of records in my collection that I don't get a chance to talk about on this channel. Links to everything, as always, down in the description. But that's going to be it for me today, guys. Thanks as always for watching, and I will catch you in the next video. So until then, peace out!